All right, we are here at the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and we are so happy to have Euan Willis with us to be able to talk a little bit about whiskey. So first I thought I'd ask Euan a bit about the society, what the society does, and what kind of products they offer in their wonderful bar here in Edinburgh.
So welcome guys to the Malt Whisky Society on Queen Street. We're a whiskey club first and foremost, so we've got, I think it's about 40,000 members worldwide, and we specialise in single cask strength whiskey from all over the world, obviously predominantly in Scotland, but we do have international stuff, American bourbons. We don't have any Canadian rye at the moment, but we've got Japanese, we've got Swedish stuff, stuff from India, all over the place. Most of our stuff is single cask, so we go out to distilleries, we buy casks or barrels of whiskey from them. We age those barrels ourselves, typically, not all the time. We age those barrels ourselves, and then once we think it's ready, we put it straight from the cask into the bottles. We're not blending anything together, typically. We're not adding any colour or water or diluting it at all. And we're not chill filtering it, which is kind of a technical term, but it basically is a process that some distilleries choose to do, some don't, we don't. So all of our stuff and the green bottles you see on the bar is all single cask strength. It's like drinking straight from a barrel. Means a couple of things. They're all quite limited. So the two bottles we've got on the table here, there's only 554 of this one. That's something a little bit different that we can talk about later. And there's only 214 of the one for yourself. They're also cask strength, so they're 55 and 56% respectively, or 110 and 112 proof. It's a little bit punchier than your kind of classic 80 to 90% proof that the guys from the US might be used to. Right. Likewise, people in Scotland aren't typically drinking this often, but it's interesting. And the reason we do this is because there's more flavour. There's more alcohol in them, but there's more flavour in them as well, and they're more unique. So every bottle on our back bar is different. We have about 1,000 bottles open here at any time, and every single one is different. Some slightly, some more so. But it's kind of a rough overview.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So when you when you actually taste these, do you normally? So I see we have some water, we have some droppers. Do you normally taste them straight, or do you normally drink them with a little bit of dilution?
So the way I like to taste cask strength whiskey is I always recommend in my tastings, in my events that I run, we always recommend tasting them neat. I taste them neat kind of 3 or 4 times, because especially the first time you try it, you're going to taste the alcohol. Second time, probably still the alcohol. Third time, your tongue will mellow out a bit, and you'll start to taste a bit more of the flavors that are going on in there. Once you've got a feel for that, we recommend adding just 2 or 3 drops to start with. You can always add more water to it. Obviously, can't take it out, but and that first 2 or 3 drops makes a massive difference. So when you're drinking, if I just take like Johnny Walker or Macallan, kind of 12-year-old, like the standard whiskies you might see in a bar anywhere in the world, they've been blended, lots of casks have been blended together, and they've been diluted down to 80, 90 proof, depending on what the product is. And that's for consistency. If you've got a favourite whiskey, if your favourite whiskey is Macallan or Glenfarclas or Glenlivet, you want to taste the same thing every time you go to the bar and ask for it. So they are aiming for the same product every single time, and they blend it together. They basically make a recipe to make that product the same, and then they put it into the bottles. We do things differently. We buy the whiskey, taste the whiskey, decide if it's good enough. If it's not good enough, it doesn't get into one of our bottles, and then we label it as such. So the tasting panel, we've got a group of, I think it's about 40 people who name and describe all our whiskies. And if you look at this one's called Retro Nasal Tasting Menu. I've made a Rob Roy or like a Scotch Manhattan with it for you. This is quite fatty. I always like to think of this as like walking through an industrial kitchen. Like there's stock going on, there's smells of vegetables being chopped, bread being baked, kind of fatty meats cooking, and because of that, that's how it's got this name. It's got a wee description describing it. So we don't aim for a specific product. We buy the whiskey, taste the whiskey, and name it and label it based on what the finished product is. We're all about the kind of cask process. So yeah,
that's cool. Oh yeah. So one of the things that I'm always interested in is so one thing that I do a lot of is actually interested in cocktails. single malt whiskeys are notoriously hard to mix with because.
Have you tried these shows?
No, we haven't actually yet. Yeah. Well, yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your process while I try something that you gave us? Yeah.
No, yeah. So I will admit, whiskeys in general can be quite not hard to deal with, but there's a little bit more nuance to it, I would say. You want to, when you're making a drink, if it's something unique, a new concept that we're coming up with, or if it's a classic like you guys have, you want to try and extenuate the qualities of the whiskey you've got.
Yeah.
So for the Boulevardy, this way I did this is just kind of classic 1:1:1. So some people do slightly skewed ratios. I prefer 1:1:1, and I'll always try and pick quite a citrusy, bright whiskey. Almost because it's in place of the gin in the Negroni. Yep. Obviously, it's a different vibe, but the whiskey we've got is a real taste of summer. It is it's super bright in the mouth if you try it neat. A bit citrusy, almost leaves the palate feeling refreshed, which is a little bit unusual for Scotch whiskey, especially stuff that's exported internationally is a bit more heavy and kind of palate clouding. And so when you mix that with the vermouth and the Campari, it should make a nice bright drink. Likewise, I like to match the garnishes to the drink, so that's why the lemon peel is there. It's just to brighten the whole drink up. As for the Rob Roy, went for kind of opposite end of the spectrum just to kind of show stuff off. We got the retro nasal tasting menu. That's a meaty, fatty drink like we were discussing. A little bit of chocolate bitters in there to kind of accentuate the leatherness of it. A little bit of Angostura bitters in there as well. And it's a kind of heavier, more refined drink. Maybe more of a winter drink the way I've prepared it, but I want to give you a little bit of a difference. Yeah.
That's excellent. So you I mean, it's really interesting what kind of the way that you're using these these whiskeys because I feel like it's the same way that actually a lot of people kind of use rums, like the different types of rums. And so do you ever do things that they do with those? Yeah. Do you ever do things like they do where you try to mix different types of the ones that you do, like where you do like split bases or anything like that?
So split bases with different, not necessarily different spirits, but with different whiskeys, not purposefully. So I am bittersweet about this. One of the best drinks we did was actually a Rob Roy. I don't even know what we'd call it because it's not quite Manhattan. It's not quite Rob Roy. It was with a colleague of mine who doesn't work here anymore, but love him to bits, called Sam. Accidentally mixed some Finnish rye whiskey with American rye whiskey, and then we can't sell it anymore. So we used to have a barrel aged cocktails here. So we made a Manhattan in the barrel, and it was the best Manhattan ever. So we've not experimented too much with split bases. The thing with that is if you're mixing these whiskeys together, you lose some of their individual character. So if we were doing stuff like that, personally, I'd probably just use a blend that matched up to what I was doing. Yeah. Obviously, because we work here, we don't use that many blends. We do have some of our own small batch blends that are in the white bottle, in the clear bottles. They're more experiments from our spirits team, and we use those. We've actually got a rhubarb and caramel old fashioned at the moment that's using Irish single malt. That is cool. Not single cask, but it's a couple of casks, and that's quite interesting. No, in answer to your question, but we do some split base. We've, perfect Manhattan, stuff like that. Yeah. It's not even split base. No, we've not really. Sorry.
Perfect. Yeah. No, and then that's excellent one. And I mean, I guess part of it too is that with your whatever thousands of bottles, you can normally find a taste profile that you're probably trying to figure out. So do you have any thoughts do you have suggestions for like how to for people who are trying to, let's say, do like cocktails with these types of single malts? Like, do you have recommendations, things that you particularly like, things that you've had go wrong, like anything like this?
I'm maybe there's a little peek behind the curtain, but my job's a little bit easier based that we've got such expert tasters here who write these descriptions. When I'm looking for inspiration for a cocktail, quite often it'll be, what whiskey have we got that we can make this cocktail with? If we've only got one bottle left of it, there's no point putting something on the menu like that. But so that's the other thing. Once these run out, they're gone forever. We don't get them back because they're all so unique. But I can read the description, and that gives me a little bit of a base to go off of. So one of my favorite drinks I've made here was actually a spin on a Rob Roy. I'm terrible at naming drinks, so it was just called a rosemary and walnut black Rob Roy. So it was a rosemary infused Averna. It was a fantastic dram that we don't have any left of called... What was it called? That's going to bug me. Delish. It was just called Delish with an exclamation mark. 17 years old in a Oloroso sherry cask. Oloroso sherry gives a super fatty, meaty nuttiness to the whiskey, and the description was talking about like a Sunday roast like a lamb roast at your parents' house. Which, so with that idea, we did the rosemary and the black walnut to kind of give a bit more of a roast feel, like a roast loin, and that's where that idea came from. So. I use a lot of the descriptions for the ideas. There's also just fun, like I'll just wake up sometimes and go, I want to use this ingredient. We've got Edinburgh Cocktail Week coming up in October, which all the bars in Edinburgh do a £5 cocktail for the whole week. I don't think we're allowed to talk about what that is yet, but basically I just went, there's an ingredient I've always wanted to try and use. I'm just going to use that and then match the whiskey to that ingredient. But you can also use contrasts as well. So it's a little bit harder to do contrast because obviously when you mix the whiskey, you're inherently diluting it with something else. Yeah. So you need to be careful about contrast. They're harder to do, but contrasts work better for pairing food. We do food pairings here as well. So if we've got like a citrus whiskey like this, goes very well with white fish in the same way like a slice of lemon on the side will go with that. But when you're trying to do that in drinks, it's a little bit more tricky.
Cool. Yeah. Go. I think the one thing I'm curious about is that, I mean, your job seems super interesting, super good. So how did you get into this? Like, how did you?
So I actually worked in a gin bar before this. So I worked at a gin bar. Yeah, it started at the dark side. I'd still. Okay, yeah. Well, there's a lot of. I wouldn't say hate for gin. We do our own gins here as well. So we do cask aged gins that are 6 months in a bourbon barrel, just to put our own wee spin on it. But yeah, I worked at a gin bar doing cocktails and stuff like that, and then just needed to move, and these guys were applying. I actually applied a month late for the job here. I just read the job listing wrong, came for an interview, and the manager was like, yeah, you missed that job, but someone else is leaving in a week, so we'll give you a shot. So yeah, that's how I started here. I've been here 3 years now. It's good fun. I think the joy of working here is that the range of stuff we get to do. I get to muck around with cocktails. We get to talk to whiskey enthusiasts who are like we've got a members room upstairs, so that's filled with people who are here for the whiskey. They sit down and they take the whiskey very serious. Get to talk to them. We've got our public bar here, which is typically full of tourists, so we get to invite people into this whiskey setting, tell them about our whiskey, tell them about Scotch in general. Just had a fantastic chat with the couple behind me about different barrel sizes and how that affects whiskey, and then we also get to run tastings that are either regular tastings that we just like normal tastings, 3 whiskeys, we talk about them, talk about flavors and stuff, or we get to design kind of more interesting tastings. So a colleague of mine did whiskey and bug pairing, so like fried bugs as like a kind of thing. We've done like vegan friendly tastings, we've done drag show tastings, we've done like just a wider range of hilarious stuff. We do my colleague Nicola is doing a fantastic, very simple idea for a tasting, but it's how whiskey spread across the world. So obviously it's always said Ireland invented whiskey and Scotland perfected it. So it starts in Ireland with an Irish whiskey, then to a Scottish whiskey, then across the pond to the States with an American whiskey, then to Japan with the kind of last of the old world whiskey as we call it, and then we're going to, I don't know if she's picked yet, but a new world whiskey, so that might be Danish, Swedish, Indian, Taiwanese, something like that, a funky whiskey at the end, and she's going to talk about the history of how it spread across the world and the different key moments in whiskey history. So yeah. I'd recommend coming to one of our tastings while you're here, but no.
Excellent. Well, I think that's it. Do you have anything left? Well, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And this was excellent. I learned an enormous amount. And I thought, I mean, they're delicious. I was going to say they're delicious.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for chatting.
Well, thank you so much.
So this is weird.
Yeah.